think many of us parents are trying to be the best parents. Sometimes the pressures of life are overwhelming. So probably I have a demanding job, or on the other hand, somebody recently lost their job, so they are just struggling to make ends meet. And in the ups and downs of life, sometimes even when we want to give our best, we do not show up that way for one reason or another. And so in this equation, I'm also seeing there is the place of the child. Are these children thinking of the consequences of their actions? Because I'm looking at it this way. When I'm faced with circumstances that are less than pleasant, what I'm faced with are choices. So like in the recent school unrests, many of them cited exam dates. Some, they said, didn't want to do mock exams, and others cite some things that are not working well in school. But is unrest the solution? Is banning the solution? Are these young people thinking about the consequences of their actions?
But I think, like you're saying, I think I've really hit it with the parent, but I'm coming to the teenager because this is a collective responsibility. And I think for not addressing the teenager and also being able to tell them the truth is also trying to cover them. As much as, yes, as parents, we have really failed, but don't think it validates them to do what they're doing. They can choose their life. I know of young people who were brought up in very unpleasant family environment or broken families, and they came out different. So what we need to tell these young people is, and I'm here to say, even as from seeing the failed family, this is a failed teenager who does not understand or who does not really, who has not built up their self, who do not want to work on themselves. They want to really have excuses to blame other people. And so this is a teenager who will always want to tag what is doing to what is happening. But all of us have a choice to make in life. It is irrespective of what happens around us. We have a choice to do things differently. And so I come back to the teenager. Like you're saying, yes, it is true. We have a part to play in this as parents, but this is not only a parent's responsibility, because I know of a parent or two or three who will tell you that I've done all I can do to these young people, but I've not seen them reciprocate, been able to lay family values, be able to lay foundations in terms of Christian values, personal values as a home, but it is not working out. And that goes back to the young people. What they don't understand, that beside every voice or every decision that you coming up with, or any choice you're going to make in life, you're going to pay for it. Like Mutua once said, that beside every choice and decision you're going to make right now as a young person, validate it against the cost you'll be able to incur 10 years to come. Because we must be able to tell these young people that at the end of the day is that the life that they're living is their life alone. Every choice they're going to make, and I want to really say this to these young people, that you're not building a family for you're building a future for a parent, you're building a future for you. And the picture of the future you're building depends on the choices you're going to make right now. Yeah, so we have also a failed generation that is irresponsible. I'm sorry to say that. A failed generation that is irresponsible, that is seeking to give excuses to every mistake they are making, and this is making them to live a life that is not intentional or is not even promising. And for the young people who are going to listen to this podcast, you're also banning your future. I want to repeat it. When you go on strike, you're not banning the school, you're banning your future. That is the best thing I can tell you. There's sometimes back, one of the universities in Kenya that I know, that I was able to know, a friend was there, had an issue with strikes. Don't say which university, but a few years ago, almost 10, 15 years ago, it used to have strikes every semester. They had strikes. But at the end of the day is the regime, those who are graduated during that season, did it very hard to get jobs. Not because they participated in the strike, but because they were associated with the season that this campus had all those strikes. You might ban a school. You're not part of it, but the regime will be written in all walls. I had this a day of a few proposals from the principals who are having their annual conference in Mombasa, and one of them said, why should we be so lenient to these guys? Because at the end of the day is we are giving them access to what we call quote in quotes, and this is very wrong, their rights. And let me say, every right has a responsibility. We are not saying that these kids have a right to do everything, but you must tell them that even that right to do what you want to do has a responsibility. You cannot steal someone else's money and expect to escape. That's a responsibility. So when you're doing something wrong, it's okay. It's your right to do what you're doing, to go on the street. It's your right to do this and this. But beside that right, there must be responsibility. So this person said that why can't we allow these guys to, as long as been mentioned in the cases of riot and assault in school, stay home for 2 years. We will not allow it. We delay you from the KCSE exam. and you'll not do exams so that you can save 2 years, so that you can be able to pay for the wrong choices. So that's the thing. So for me, I'll say we must be tough. And young people are listening to us, we're going to really relent. I think we've been so soft on you and from home. That's one thing we're going to try to build up what you call, not prison at home, but build up what you call principles that can never change, because principles never change. Whether you're a generation Y or X or Z or Alpha, principles remain the same. So we must build up principles that we're going to get these young people. And as parents, our no should be no and our yes should be yes. Yes, you can allow them to negotiate, allow them to participate in conversation or dialogue. But at the back of every dialogue, we don't give them permission to make choices that we know as parents are not going to be right. So as a teenager, if you're going to engage yourself into any choices that are going to affect an institution, and this usually means even at home, because when you get yourself into the cells or you get yourself into the books of wrongdoing, anytime you go through the courts or you get yourself into CID, they take your fingerprints. Because this is not, these guys are not seeing, because when the fingerprints are taken, let me tell you, it will deny you many opportunities. And you are marked as a criminal, whether you're going to get born again after that, or what you're going to do after that, because your fingerprints are everywhere. Now you go take when you go take what you call the good conduct, they don't look at your name on the internet, they look at your name on the fingerprint. I've seen many people who are looking for scholarship, and they go to the US or they go to any embassy and they're denied the scholarship, not because they didn't qualify, because they are being listed that one of the days they were part of the criminal that did this. So it is not a school you're banning. You're not banning your parents' home. You are banning your future. And that's why I say this categorically to the young people listening to us, that you have a voice. You have a concern. I've never seen a teenager or a young person who is in need of something from their parents at home, and because they've been given a date forward, being able to satisfy their needs or their concern, and the teenager goes on and burns the home, or burns the parents' car, or burns their parents' bedroom, or destroys the parents' laptop. No. So it means it is not, and this is very true, it's not a point of they cannot be able to manage the frustration. If home they can manage the frustration, not to burn the house, not to burn their father's car, not to burn their mattresses, meaning they have emotional intelligence. So what is happening at school? It is a place of what to call the choices. Yeah. So beside every concern that you're going to have as a young person, listen to us today. You have very valid reasons. You have very valid concerns. You have a voice to raise. But the thing you must understand is that every voice, every concern that you want to raise must be responsible. Every voice, every concern, every desire that you have to raise up, that needs must also be accompanied by responsibility. So be careful, because you're not banning your parents' school, you're banning your future. And as parents, I think what you can do, and I'm not really against being tough at home, but I think the place of being tough and tender, maybe you can discuss it maybe after the pose the next question, that how can we now be able not to lose them, also let not to become prodigal fathers. Yeah.
Thank you for unpacking that directly. I like a few of the phrases that you've used, that you've told us that the teenagers must also learn they have failed. This is not just a responsibility for the parent, they also have a responsibility in it. You have also told them directly that when they burn schools, they're not just burning the dome or whatever building they burnt in school, they are burning their future. Basically, what you're telling them is that all choices have consequences, and they must have that in mind every time they're choosing what action to take, which is quite powerful. And the other key thing that I think I would like to emphasize is that we are having a generation of young people who have learned to blame everyone else but themselves. So they don't take responsibility for their actions. They'll blame the school, the teachers, the parents, anyone they can blame, but not think of what's my contribution to this problem. And that's very powerful. And you're looking at it from both sides of the coin. Now, this will be like our last question.